Today, I'm going to be going over a trade scenario that I think is very possible in this upcoming draft that could benefit both the Oakland Raiders and the New York Giants. And I'll get into describing why I think it makes sense for both teams. Um, but basically, I think it's a possibility that the Raiders should really consider trading down from the number 27 pick and acquiring more capital. From a Raiders perspective, I think this because currently in the draft, a lot of the players are more of, if you were to pull the last 6 years of NFL drafts, a lot of the players, have more of second round, third round grades that are going to be going late first, probably. You would consider them that. And it's more talent rich in that range. You'd feel more comfortable taking players. So if you're the Raiders, you have so many holes. Like I mentioned before, you need at least one edge, one secondary, one tight end, one running back, one interior offensive line. And if you really want to preach and take the best player available with the capital they have right now, they need to pick up more picks. So I think it makes sense for them to drop back to where, they could drop back in the early second and acquire an additional third round pick in this year's draft at least, and get another player to allow them to supplement their team and really trust their board. And it will help them really be able to fill out their roster more adequately. And you wouldn't think one player would make the difference just in this draft, but it really would. They have 3 in the first round, 1 in the second, but they don't have 1 in the third, 1 in the fourth, 1 in the fifth. So right there's 3, 4, 5. 5 really picks you could really say you're going to get impact, contributor you would hope in this year's draft. The list I just went over, and if you want to take a best player available that might not fit necessarily one of those needs, you're going to need an additional pick, or you would like an additional pick. And from the other perspective is the Raiders don't have a second round pick next year. So if you could acquire a pick next year as well, it helps kind of offset that second round we gave up in the Khalil Mack deal. And so you could really help supplement the team now and in the future for the Raiders. So why would it make sense for the Giants from that perspective? Well, as we know, they have pick 6 and pick 17. And Dave Gettleman likes to build his defense, his hogs, his interior offensive line, maybe linebackers, and he likes to build it that way. They have so many holes. So from a New York Giants perspective and a fan's perspective, why would you like this and consider this? Well, because at pick 6, you could get a guy like Montez Sweat or Gary. Boom, immediately impact player. At pick 17, you could get maybe like a Devin Bush or Jonah Williams or Andre Dillard from Washington, offensive tackle, or like a number 1 receiver, maybe DK's there, or like an A.J. Brown, Hakeem Butler, someone like that, whoever you love, Marquise Brown, whoever you feel like, you could get that. And then, you might say, well, I could get, the quarterback I want, who I would say would probably be most likely Daniel Jones, that they'd be targeting late in the first and who has a real possibility of being there. Why can't I get him, late in the second or early in the second? Why wouldn't I just stay there, at pick, if I'm the Giants, why wouldn't I just stay there at pick 37 and take him? Well, they remained pretty committed to having Eli play, maybe even extending him a year. They want to groom someone. So you want to, by taking a quarterback in the first round, you get a 5th-year option. You get him under control more before he can cash in. And if you're planning on grooming a quarterback possibly a year or 2 under someone, it's important to have that 5th-year option. You see it every year, basically. Teams trade up back in that late first round so they get that 5th-year control. You just saw it last year with Lamar Jackson with the Ravens, and I'll bring that up to bring reference on what the package would look like between the two teams. But if you're telling me, the Raiders could add an additional player to add flexibility, the Giants could get 3 impact starters in this year's draft as, at 3 key need positions, and I think it works out for both teams. Now, what I would expect As I mentioned the Lamar Jackson trade for reference. Last year, Lamar Jackson was picked at number 32. So number 32 and pick number 132 were sent for pick 52, 125, and a second. If you look at that trade chart, basically 630 points is what pick 32 and 132 add up to. 52, 125, and a future second, they added up to about 777 points. That's like a difference of 150 points. So if I were to construct a trade that makes sense for both franchises, where I think both walk away happy, and that's comparable to that and makes sense from the scale, it would be the Raiders give up pick 27, which is a value of 680 points, and the Giants send their way pick 37, pick 95, which is in the third round, and a future third. Now that future third helps the Raiders in this perspective. They don't have that number 2, so you get that future pick. It helps offset not having a 2 next year. And then at pick 37, if you're the Raiders, you could potentially still get a player equal tier that you were going to get at 27, essentially. The way how I feel players are rated, they're a lot of these players are going to be taken late ones, basically, belong in the second round. So I think you get a more value there. And then you pick up that third this year to help you trust your board. So it makes sense for both teams, I think. Let me know what you think. Also, another thing why the Giants would also do it is right after pick 28, which is after our pick, is the Chargers. They're rumored to try to find a future quarterback too. So it makes sense for the Giants to, get that fifth-year option and jump ahead of the Chargers to get, let's say, Daniel Jones, who's, heavily rumored to them. I think it makes sense for both teams. The Raiders still get a player of equal caliber, and then the Giants, it allows them to take 2 studs early in this year's draft and get their quarterback of the future. Let me know what you think. Subscribe. More videos coming. Thanks.